For generations you were told the 144,000 were chosen people, a fixed number, hand selection by God, sealed for salvation, while the rest of humanity was left outside the gate, 12,000 from each tribe, a divine quota. But pause for a moment. If God is infinite, why is salvation capped like a nightclub? Why would eternal love have a capacity limit? And here's the question no one ever asks. What if the 144,000 was never about people at all? According to official doctrine, the 144,000 are literal people, 12,000 taken from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, chosen, protected, sealed on their foreheads during a future time of tribulation, while the rest of the world endures judgment. This interpretation has been taught for centuries. It is presented as settled truth, but the moment you apply even basic reasoning, the story begins to fracture. If salvation depends on ethnic lineage, what happens to the billions of human beings who were never part of these tribes? Are they simply excluded by birth? And what about the tribes themselves? Most of them vanished from historical record thousands of years ago. They scattered, intermarried, dissolved into time. So how is 12,000 from each one supposed to be identified now? By blood tests? By paperwork? And then there is the number itself. 144,000. Not one more, not one less. In an infinite universe, created by an infinite intelligence, why would redemption hinge on such a precise numerical quota? Why not more? Why not all? Now consider this. The number 144,000 appears in only one place in the entire Bible, the book of Revelation. And Revelation is openly acknowledged as symbolic from beginning to end. Dragons, beasts, multi-headed creatures, cities descending from the sky, stars falling to the earth. Every image is metaphor except this one. So ask yourself, why would the most symbolic book ever written suddenly become literal at the exact point where the story stops making sense? And if the 144,000 are not people, then what are they? And because you might find their answer in the work of Haymitters. To understand this, you have to stop thinking like a believer and start thinking like an engineer. This is not about faith. It is about structure, about design, about numbers that describe function, not fate. 144,000 is not the kind of number you use to count people. It is too precise. It behaves like a measurement, like voltage, like capacity, like a system built according to exact specifications. Think in terms of architecture. Every advanced system, whether it's a power grid, a processor, or a communications network, is defined by pathways, channels that carry energy, circuits that remain dormant until the right conditions bring them online. The ancients understood this. They didn't write in the language of biology or electronics because those words didn't exist yet. So they encoded the knowledge into symbols, stories, and numbers that could survive time. What later generations read as prophecy was originally instruction. The moment you see it, the framing changes completely. The 144,000 is not a group waiting in the future. It is a system that exists now, a built-in architecture designed to conduct electrical potential. Let this land clearly. 144,000 is not a head count, it's a calculation. And once you accept that, the question is no longer who gets chosen. It becomes what is being activated. Once you stop reading the text as genealogy and start reading it as design, a pattern begins to surface. A pattern the ancients return to again and again. The number 12. 12 tribes, 12 apostles, 12 gates, 12 foundations, 12 stones. Over and over, the same structure appears, not as decoration, but as division. A way of organizing a larger whole into functional parts. That is what the word tribe actually means. It does not mean race. It does not mean ethnicity. It comes from the idea of a branch, a section, a subdivision of a single system. A way to map complexity. Now look at the human body. You have 12 primary cranial nerves emerging directly from the brainstem. Not 11, not 13, 12. Each one governs a major function. Sight, hearing, balance, facial movement, swallowing, heartbeat, breath. They are the main channels through which the brain interfaces with the body. And these nerves are not single wires. Each one subdivides, branches, splits into thousands of microscopic fibers that extend throughout the head and upper body, forming an intricate internal network. Modern neuroscience confirms this. A single cranial nerve can contain tens of thousands of individual nerve fibers. The ancients did not have microscopes, but they had direct internal observation, heightened perception of their own biological systems, enough to recognize scale, division, and pattern. So when ancient texts speak of 12 tribes, 12 divisions sealed and set apart, they may not be describing people moving across a desert. They may be describing channels within the human nervous system. And when you do the math, 12 primary channels, each branching into roughly 12,000 smaller pathways, the number appears naturally. 12 times 12,000. 144,000. Not people, pathways. At this point, the alignment becomes uncomfortable, because this shouldn't line up, but it does. The text says the 144,000 are sealed on their foreheads. That phrase has been taken literally for centuries. Imagined as a mark, a stamp, something placed on the skin. But that interpretation collapses the moment you slow down and examine the language. You cannot seal bone. Skin holds no circuitry. There is nothing on the surface of the forehead that needs protection. The forehead, in ancient anatomical language, does not mean the face. It refers to the region behind the bone, the space between the eyes, inside the skull. The area the ancients associated with vision, judgment, and awareness. Today we call this region the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is the most advanced part of the human brain. It governs executive function, decision-making, impulse control, focus, moral reasoning, the sense of self. And here is the critical detail. Large portions of this region remain largely inactive in most people. Neurology openly acknowledges that vast networks here are underutilized, dormant, electrically silent. So when ancient texts speak of something being sealed in the forehead, they are not describing a mark placed on the body. They are describing a state change within it. The original meaning of the word translated as sealed is not branding or labeling. It means to preserve, to lock in, to stabilize. In physiological terms, it describes activation. The moment a system is completed, energized, and protected from dissipation. A seal is not a symbol, it is a function. And this reframes the entire image. The forehead is not where something is displayed, it is where something turns on. Which leads to the obvious question no one ever asks. Why seal bone, when the real target is behind it? Knowing the architecture is only the beginning, because a system like this does not activate all at once. Nothing jumps instantly from dormant to fully powered. There is a process, a journey, and this is the part that is almost never explained. Running through the center of your body is a vertical channel. It is not symbolic, it is physical. Your spine is not a solid column of bone. It is a segmented structure with a hollow interior, carrying fluid, signals, and charge between the body and the brain. Every ancient tradition knew this. That is why sacred imagery is obsessed with vertical movement. Ladders, trees, pillars, rivers flowing upward, something rising from below to above. The spine contains 33 vertebral segments, not approximately, exactly 33. This number appears everywhere in sacred tradition, not because it is mystical, but because it is anatomical. It describes distance, it describes stages, it describes a climb. Ancient texts speak of ascent in days, not moments, of something that rises gradually, step by step, through a narrow passage. When you map that language onto the body, the metaphor becomes precise. A substance is produced at the lower end of the system and must travel upward through all 33 segments to reach what the texts call the upper room. The upper room is not a building. It is not a chamber in the sky. It is the highest point of the system, the crown of the skull, where higher processing occurs. The place where awareness consolidates. Rivers in scripture are not geography, they are flow. Ladders are not objects, they are pathways. When texts describe oil being poured, anointed, preserved, lifted, they are pointing to a fragile internal substance that must make this journey intact. And fragile is the key word. This substance, whatever name later traditions gave it, cannot be forced, it cannot be rushed, it does not respond to desire or belief, it responds only to conditions. It rises slowly over time, carrying potential as it moves upward, and then the text always warns you, not directly, not clearly, but consistently. Because this is where almost everyone fails. The reason this process fails is not because it is rare, it is because it is delicate. The ascent depends on stability, on coherence, on a system that is calm enough to allow upward movement without disruption. And most human lives are built in direct opposition to that requirement. Strong emotional spikes generate heat. Heat breaks coherence. Anger is not just a feeling. It is a physiological state that increases internal temperature and electrical turbulence. In a system this sensitive, turbulence dissipates charge. It burns off what was meant to rise. Fear does something different. Fear constricts. It tightens tissue, shortens breath, narrows pathways. Where anger overheats the system, fear strangles it. Flow cannot pass through channels that are locked in tension. Then there is constant stimulation, noise, excess input, endless reaction. A nervous system that never settles cannot sustain vertical movement. Energy leaks outward instead of being conserved upward. This is why every ancient tradition emphasized restraint, not as moral judgment, but as protection. Fasting was not punishment. Silence was not obedience. Withdrawal was not denial. These were safeguards. Ways of reducing interference during a critical process. Later institutions turned these instructions into rules, rules into commandments, commandments into shame. But originally, none of this was about being good or bad. It was about preservation. Preserving charge, preserving coherence, preserving a substance that could only complete its journey if the system carrying it remained stable long enough. Anger burns it, fear blocks it, excess drains it. This was never about obedience to an external authority. It was about maintaining internal conditions long enough for something fragile to reach its destination. And if that realization makes you uncomfortable, it should, because it means the barrier was never outside you. It was always your state. When the ascent completes its journey, it arrives at a place that has been misunderstood, sensationalized, and dismissed all at once. A small structure, deep in the center of the brain. Not mystical, not imaginary, anatomical, the pineal gland. It is no larger than a grain of rice, positioned precisely where the hemispheres of the brain meet. Neuroscience recognizes it as a regulatory center, sensitive to light and darkness, deeply involved in cycles, rhythm, and internal timing. The ancients knew it long before microscopes existed. They marked it everywhere, in symbols, architecture, art, not because it was magical, but because it was central. What happens here is not an explosion. It is not a vision-filled spectacle. It is a phase change. When the ascending substance reaches this region intact, something stabilizes. The metaphor the ancients used was crystallization, not in the sense of turning into stone, but in the sense of coherence. A fluid becoming structured, a charge becoming fixed, a potential becoming usable. People who reach this stage describe sensations that are remarkably consistent across cultures and centuries. A pressure behind the eyes, a tightening across the crown of the head, sometimes a heaviness, sometimes a dull ache, as if something long dormant is being asked to carry current for the first time. There is often darkness before clarity, disorientation before coherence. The system is recalibrating. Networks that have been silent are being brought online. This is not bliss. It is not comfortable. It is adjustment. And this is what reassection actually points to. Not a body leaving a grave, but dormant systems reactivating, silent tissue beginning to conduct. A nervous system completing a circuit it was always designed to complete. Nothing supernatural has entered the body. Nothing external has arrived. What was dead was never the flesh. It was unused capacity. And now it is awake. The final misunderstanding is the word apocalypse itself. It does not mean destruction. It never did. The original meaning is unveiling, a lifting of the veil, a revelation of what was always present but hidden from perception. The end of the world was never external. No sky collapsing, no earth burning, no divine invasion from above. The world that ends is the internal model you use to interpret reality, the limited perceptual frame, the narrowed bandwidth. Awakening is not adopting a new belief. Beliefs change nothing at this level. Awakening is a shift in perception, an expansion of what the nervous system can register, integrate, and process. This is why all the symbols converge: the tribes, the numbers, the seals, the rivers, the ladders, the upper rooms. They are not separate myths. They are different lenses pointing to the same internal system. One body, one architecture, one circuit. When it activates, the veil lifts not because truth arrives, but because the receiver finally turns on. This is where the external savior narrative collapses. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are not waiting for permission. You are not waiting for a future event. The system already exists. It has always existed. The only variable is whether the conditions are met. You do not join the 144,000. You become it. Not as a title, not as an identity, but as a fully activated network. Every pathway conducting, every division synchronized, the circuit complete. This is not a threat, and it is not a promise. It is a design specification. The architecture is present now. The potential is present now. The window opens and closes based on conditions, not belief. And understand this clearly. This is only one layer of the code. If this unsettles you, there's a reason. The next layer explains time itself, why cycles matter, why certain moments carry more charge than others, and why the ancients built entire calendars around what you were never taught to notice. If this resonated, take a moment to like, share, and comment. It helps surface this work to those who are already searching. And subscribe to the channel Inner Alchemy, where we continue decoding what was hidden in plain sight.